boy is back, the kid, the one and only, the nonprofit sector connector. I call myself Tommy D. Ever since I'm 2 years old. In fact, the other day I was showing somebody, I picked up some books in my mom's house and my dad's house. They both live there. But I picked up the books there, and it said, Dearest Tommy D. And up in the corner it said 1983. That's when this book was given to me. And it said something like, Tommy D, you're the greatest, and things like that, or maybe I'm filling in the blanks, but it was the book about Louis Pasteur. And Louis Pasteur had, found the cure, right? And it was this whole thing, but I showed people last night that it said Tommy D in it, because somebody said, hey, how long have you been Tommy D? I used to say, since I'm like 2 years old. So this proves since I'm 5. This show is called Long Island ChangeMakers. Get it together, man. The show is called Long Island ChangeMakers, where every week on the program, I bring you somebody who's doing very important work on Long Island. Sometimes they're a nonprofit leader, sometimes they're a business professional, sometimes they're both. Today, I have Renee Turner from Thoughtful Lawyering here with me. Welcome to Long Island ChangeMakers. You are one.
Thank you, Tommy.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm well.
Good, good. We were talking just before that, the reason or the way we are connected is being on the New York City or Long Island Advisory Board for Best Buddies, right? The New York Metro Area Advisory Board, I guess I'd call it.
Yeah.
And I'm one of these people that, like, when I'm on a board or I'm on a committee, I always want to connect with people,
yeah.
And make friends and the whole thing. And we had, we created a relationship, you and I, a little bit, and we did something at Spirit of Huntington one night, and you came by, and then life happens and whatnot, and people are in different directions and things. And I saw something on LinkedIn recently that you made a post and you rebranded, so to speak, and actually created a brand,
right.
Thoughtful Lawyering. And I just dropped you a text, and I was like, probably something to this effect, like, dude, what's up? We should connect. Like, what's going on? What are you doing now? And had a call only last week or something. And I was like, I'm doing this new show. I love what you're doing. It's different. It's creative. I think you're making change. And then I go, oh my God, Changemaker. Let's do something. So that's what brings you here today. So I'd love to hear about your background, why you became an attorney in general, and then some of the transition you've gone through.
Sure. So I grew up on Long Island. I'm originally from Huntington. Both my parents were born and raised on Long Island as well. And I went to school in Georgia for college and then law school in Indiana. And for 4 years after law school, I clerked for 2 judges, and then transitioned to what's known as Big Law, which is a corporate firm in Manhattan. I worked there for nearly 8 years. I loved my firm. I loved the people that I worked with. My pro bono practice when I was there was with an organization called Her Justice. They provide pro bono legal services to survivors of domestic violence. And so I represented women throughout New York City in all the 5 boroughs in custody disputes, child support, and divorces. And then in 2020, sadly, I lost my husband, John, to cancer. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He passed within 10 months of his diagnosis. We have 2 children. At the time, they were 4 and 2 years old. And I think having those kind of major life experiences makes you rethink why you're here. Yeah. And so I really wanted my work as a lawyer to be more meaningful and to truly impact people's lives. And so I started my practice last year, Thoughtful Lawyering, and it's a different approach to family and matrimonial law.
All right, so we're going to get into all that, and I did not know the story of your loss of your husband. My condolences.
Thank you.
Yeah, obviously never easy raising 2 little children. It makes it even more difficult. So I'm sorry for that, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Interesting when these things happen in our lives that it makes us sort of evaluate or take an assessment of the fragility of our life, of our existence, how short of a time we're here,
right.
And am I doing what's really best for legacy, or right, or what's just best for other people, right?
Exactly.
And is that sort of what you went through?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have these skills as a lawyer that are not common to everyone, and I knew that I could use them to really change people's lives in a good way. And through the pro bono work that I did, I noticed that I used to develop these really great relationships with my clients, get to know them on a personal level, and understand what their challenges were. And so I was just drawn to doing something different that could really help people.
Yeah. I want to go into the pro bono piece for a second, because I know, is that first, like, quick yes, no thing, is that like a requirement as an attorney? Does everybody have to do some level of pro bono work?
It's encouraged, and when we have to basically get relicensed every couple of years, and we're asked how many pro bono hours.
So they look at that almost like where you compare, like, did you do your CLE?
Right.
Did you do your pro bono?
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Cool. So how does anybody, not you just specifically, but generally, how does an attorney fit that into, in your case, being a mom, raising a family, being an attorney, and then, oh, I got this pro bono stuff on the side? Is it, do you allocate it into each day? Is it half a day of your 5-day week? Like, what does that even look like logistically?
So lawyers usually allocate their time by hours. So when I was working at the firm, we had a requirement that we had to at least bill 20 hours of pro bono work. Now on my own, I take it on a case-by-case basis. I serve on the board of the retreat, which provides services for survivors of domestic violence, and they have a shelter in East Hampton. And so I provide pro bono legal services to their residents at the shelter. So it's really, I think, individual to the attorneys, but yeah, it doesn't have to be like half your practice. It's just that you're giving back.
Got it. So what type of practice were you running, at the large firm, as you say, big law? Like, what was the focus area there?
So I was a corporate litigator. Our department handled a variety of matters. So I worked on securities litigation, real estate, white-collar crime, and towards the end of my tenure there, I was very focused on antitrust litigation, all for big corporations.
So, like, I could be, like, obnoxious and go, like, why is that important compared to working with people going through domestic violence, right? Like, and I think I just did be obnoxious like that by pretending like I wasn't going to be. But, like, I don't want to be, like, the guy, like, says that stuff's not important. But I believe, and maybe similarly in how you made some of your transition here, when we dial it back and try to evaluate the importance of things, like, let's just say a woman who's gone through a DV situation and is now out of that or getting out of that situation, like, that's life and death versus, like, oftentimes it could literally be life and death versus, corporate bigwigs like M&A and stuff like that. Like, I feel like one really changes the world and makes an impact, and maybe that's why you're doing what you're doing now. But can you speak to that a little bit? Yeah,
I mean, I think that there's a purpose for everything, and there's a need for lawyers to represent corporations, and I greatly appreciate the work that I did at the firm. It established all of my skills and gave me the foundation to be the lawyer that I am today, and I utilize much of what I learned at the firm in my practice now. So I get that. But I do think that, you have experiences and you reach a point in life where perhaps you want to help people in a more meaningful way. And I think that's, where I am.
I love that. And I think that comes with, in my experience, it comes with experience. It comes with, like, life experiences, things that have happened to us. And then it's like, I want to get back. I want to help, man. I want to be part of it. So what is different about this firm? Are you still serving a similar population at thoughtful lawyering to the folks in the DV space and domestic violence space, or it's family law more? Let's talk a little bit about that.
So not necessarily focused on DV, but what makes my business and practice different is that I am not a litigator. So I think there's a general inclination or understanding that you run to court when there's a problem, right? And a judge makes decisions and all of that. But I take it a step back and try to see it from a more strategic approach in that perhaps we can have a discussion before it gets to court to try to resolve it, because when you initiate a court action, it's stressful emotionally to everyone involved, especially if there are children involved. In many family cases and divorces, the children are assigned an attorney. They have to meet with the attorney, and as a child, you know, perhaps you don't want to expose them to that. And so I focus, so in the divorce context, I focus on trying to come up with a marital settlement agreement where one of the spouses comes to me, I prepare the agreement, and in a divorce there's, if you have children, obviously there's custody, there's child support, and then there's the division of assets and debts, and spousal support, or what's known as alimony. So those are like the core components that need to be negotiated and decided upon. And so I draft the agreement from the perspective of my client, the spouse, and then we present it to the opposing side, their husband or wife, and then negotiate. And and then once there's an agreement, then it's just a matter of filing the paperwork with the court. And the court just has to review it to make sure that it's equitable and fair, and then the judgment of divorce can be issued.
So that's certainly different than the way things have been done in divorce cases. But is that the primary focus? Is it family matters? Is that all you're involved with, that you no longer do any of the sort of corporate stuff? I know you don't litigate, but you don't even really do corporate.
No, I don't do any corporate, no.
So even that's just transition too, from the focus area perspective.
Right.
Do you find that you tend to have more female clients or more male clients, or is it really equal?
It's pretty equal. It's a mix. You know, both genders have these issues, and and I think so. Outside of divorce, I also work on what are known as just family law matters. So if someone has not married but has a custody dispute, perhaps one parent wants sole or joint custody, those things, and perhaps a parent who does have custody now needs child support. So I assist parents in those respects. And the majority of litigants in family court are usually what's known as pro se, meaning that they don't have an attorney. So attorneys, especially in New York, are very expensive. They cost between $300 and $600 an hour. And most people cannot afford that. It racks up very quickly. And so what I saw, and a gap in the industry, was perhaps I could educate my clients enough so that they can represent themselves in court, so that they understand what the law is, they understand what their rights are. I draft argument for them so that they can articulate that to the judge in their cases. That way they're not spending thousands of dollars. They spend a few $100s with me. We meet a couple of times, we go over everything, we may do a mock question and answer, and then they're fully capable of going into court and representing themselves, which they would have done anyway, but they wouldn't have been as prepared.
Game changer, really, because if you think of it in those terms, they were going pro se, is that right?
Yes, pro se.
They'd be representing themselves anyway, with no real knowledge or strategy or understanding.
Exactly.
So you become their advisor, almost, you know, whispering in their ear or prepping them for that. So you don't never set foot in a courtroom in that regard anymore.
Like there's, you know, a handful of cases where I've gone to court, but I try not to. I really want this to work, and I've only met one other person who's doing it this way, so it's definitely a different approach. And there are, so the reality is that there may be clients who need to go to court, and they may need to litigate. And so I've tried to build up a referral network.
Where you'll then bring in somebody or refer somebody to do the litigation.
To do the litigation. And it's just, it's not my temperament to, I find that in court it's so contentious, and the lawyers are, you know, throwing things on the wall, just trying to see what will stick, and it's just a very uncomfortable situation for me and for my clients.
It seems, and again, I've made some judgments in this conversation already, but it just seems nasty.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. Nasty. And like, listen, sometimes marriages should not. Sometimes people should not be married anymore, right? And sometimes somebody does something and maybe steps out of the relationship or does something that ends a marriage, right? But like, there was a point, like, where like, you would stay up all night talking to this person.
Yes.
Right? So, and then and it becomes like this 180-degree situation where now you're adversaries, and you take this thing where these small people called children involved. And what goes on now, a new generation of where one parent has terrible things to say about the other parent, or both parents have terrible things to say about the other parent. And that just creates a whole nother ripple that's negative. So, you know, I'm like this hippie and I want to hug everybody and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, this just makes sense. Like, your way should be the way. Like, it's just, why wouldn't we just want to go, hey man, this don't work out anymore, high five, let's just like whack things up and like figure it out, like be adults about it, and then we have these children and let's like look out for them, right? And do that.
Right.
That just seems obvious.
Right. It seems obvious to us, but unfortunately that's not the way that divorce is portrayed or understood by most, and it's perpetuated by attorneys who want to litigate.
Well, when you have that, right, this is all about incentive, right? And you have if I'm an attorney charging $600 an hour, or I guess as you go up the pyramid and charge more because those high-profile cases and there's a lot of money. I mean, again, I'm not an attorney, right? But I see people and I know things, and the more we can keep this thing going, right? The more we can ring the register, right? Forget the two people that are involved or the children and everything, right? So that's just, you're talking about, like, again, 180 degree. You want to help. You want to be compassionate, you know, and loving. So I think you're going to win. And
when it comes to family matters, you know, there shouldn't be a winner and a loser. You know, like everyone should be able to move forward with their lives, start over, and it doesn't have to be so nasty.
Yeah, I had a coach friend of mine, and she would talk about, like, you know, her relationship with her husband's ex. And it's like a great relationship. And they like have this because these are like adults, who have like adult children, and they're like, well, look, we might be separate, divorced and or otherwise, but we're going to be together forever. We have these little people, and now bigger little people and grand people, and all, we got all these people involved. So like, the one dynamic to me sucks to like be always arguing forever, right? That because you're not getting rid of each other. You might be separated and or divorced, but if you have any sort of connection, you're not getting away from each other, right? So she had this like totally mature, like practical way of doing things, and she's like, we get along.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean that just seems like more like normal, you know? But like again, if there wasn't that whole paradigm of divorce is this and it has to be contentious, and again, I've been rude to lawyers through this conversation so far, but you know, it's a profession. So, and it's a profession that makes more money by, I guess, perpetuating like this thing has to be nasty, or, you know, how dare that other person, and we're going to take them for everything and that sort of stuff, you know? And you see it on TV, you see it in movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the motivation to starting my practice and doing it this way is people are at their most vulnerable.
Of course.
And to put them in a position where they don't understand what's happening, they don't understand what they're entitled to, and then for them to have to spend so much money to reach a resolution, I just thought there has to be another way.
Yeah. Right? And you said there's only, when you say you only see one other person who's doing a similar type business, you mean locally here?
Yeah, she practices mainly in the city, but so not on Long Island.
So let's talk from a marketing perspective. It's a new business, right? It's definitely a new strategy of doing things. How are you going to go out there and build this business?
I'm trying to get my name out there. Thanks, Tommy.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, so I've been marketing online, on social media, getting my name out there, letting people know that I am doing it this way, having conversations. I've been talking to a lot of legal aid type of organizations because people who may need my services would go to maybe reach out to an established legal aid organization, and they perhaps could refer them to me. So those kind of conversations.
So obviously I would think other attorneys are going to be a good opportunity for you to collaborate with, like those, you know, maybe they're more on the receiving end from you, like litigators might be on the receiving end, but I would think even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe trust and estate people, people who are dealing with like adjacent to those family matters and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I think I definitely know some people that we can get you connected to and make that happen. How does somebody get in touch with you? What's the website? Let's call out some of that too so they know.
Oh, sure. So the website is thoughtfullawyering.com. I'm on Instagram at thoughtfullawyering, so it's all Thoughtful Lawyering. I'm on LinkedIn with my name, Renee Turner, and I have a business page, Thoughtful Lawyering. Yeah, and you can reach me directly at renee.turner@thoughtfullawyering.com.
I love it. So. I love it. That's branding to me. I love it. Here's a big question for you.
Sure.
I love that word, thoughtful. I love it, right? And I used to say it about people, and I would say, you know what it is? That person is very thoughtful. And when I would say that, I didn't mean they gave me a card on my birthday, right? I meant they sat back in a conversation like this, and they thought before they responded.
Right.
Right. Why did you go with that word? What did that mean to you? Because branding is super important, and I don't want to get lost. I'm pretty sure you didn't just pick that word.
No. It's actually an interesting story. So when I was at the law firm, feedback that I received in an annual review was that I should speak up more, and that I wasn't vocal enough, and that they wanted to hear my voice more. And it was a little like, for me, when I heard it, I was like, oh, wow. I consider myself to be a thoughtful person, and I like to process the information and make sure that what I'm saying is adding value to the conversation and not just speaking off the cuff. And so I internalize that as a strength and not a weakness.
Way to go. Superpower.
Yeah. And so when I was thinking of naming my firm, I thought, I'm taking a more thoughtful approach to lawyering and really taking a step back and not being reactive, but thinking through what a strategic approach would be to resolving these matters. And I think that that's thoughtful.
Yeah, it is thoughtful, and I'm glad I asked that question. That was really good. Yeah, that was a great answer. So, where can you share? Obviously, like the old shows, like Protect the Innocent. The names are, changed to Protect the Innocent. But give me a story, if you could. An anecdote of one of your clients and how their proceedings went, and how maybe the testimonial, the feedback they gave back to you after they went through the separation and then the divorce and things like that.
Sure. Well, I think I'll use an example of I had a mom come to me who she wasn't married to her partner, but they had a child together, and she was apprehensive about retaining an attorney. She had obtained sole custody of her child initially when she separated from her partner, and she did it all by herself. She didn't have legal advice and nothing. But then the child's father was now requesting joint custody of their child, and she was nervous about it. So someone recommended that she reach out to me, and we had an initial conversation. I usually do a free consultation. We had that call, and then a few months later, she reached out because her court date was coming up, and she purchased from me what I call is a hearing prep session.
Okay.
And so we met for 30 minutes. I got all the information from her, and then I prepared what I call as a hearing prep guide. I went through what the law is, so she had a clear understanding of the law. I summarized the background facts of her case so that if the judge was to ask her a question, she could clearly present that, because it's very important when you're in court. Judges' time is limited, and they want to just get straight to the facts.
So the better and tighter she could be on delivering what.
Right.
So you understand and know what the judge wants to hear.
Right.
She doesn't. Right.
Exactly.
So if you could help her tighten up and deliver it in a package, so to speak, that the judge is going to best accept and retain, the better off it is for her, right? Okay,
exactly.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, so so the facts, and then I prepared argument for her opposing the change in custody. So she had sole custody, he wanted to join. So I prepared the argument for her on those issues, and then we did a little bit of mock Q&A. So I spent about an hour with my clients to prepare them right before the hearing. And yeah, so she went to the hearing on her own. She emailed me right after.
She crushed it?
I crushed it. And I told her that you have to know what to ask for when you're in court. And I told her that she needed to ask that it be dismissed, because you have to, when you're trying to change a custody order, there has to be a substantial change in circumstance, and he couldn't articulate a substantial change. Nothing had changed to the extent that it warranted a change in custody.
Got it. So her call to action is based on that not being there should be a dismissal.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so she called me after. She told me all about it, and there actually were law students in the courtroom when her case was called. And
is she at Hofstra Law right now? Is she in law school?
She should go to law school now.
That's awesome.
But she said it felt like she was Elle Woods from
yes,
because they clapped
with a little chihuahua. Oh, the law students.
The law students clapped because her case his case was dismissed, and she presented it perfectly. And so that's what I mean. Like, people are fully capable.
Sure, but you got to give them the information.
But they just need the information.
Yeah. You are a Long Island changemaker because you're changing other people. That's what this is. And now she's empowered and she's well informed and things like that.
Right.
That's so special. That's incredible. Oh my God, I love that story. Yeah. So going forward, right? I want to talk real quick. You mentioned the retreat. You sit on the board of the retreat, and I'm aware of the retreat, and I'm aware of some other domestic violence organizations here on Long Island. Education-wise, what can you educate people, to look out for? We only have about a moment or two, but what can you sort of educate people to protect themselves and things like that, and really stand up for themselves? Yeah.
So there are resources. The retreat is one of them. They have a hotline. If anyone is experiencing intimate partner violence, you can reach out. And there's a shelter if you need safety. The shelter provides services for parents and children, and it's at an unknown location, so you don't have to fear for your safety. Yeah, I mean, and if you need, personal advice, you could always reach out to me. Like I said, I do free consultations, and I could direct anyone to where they can get services. But one of the things I want people to know is that they're not alone. I know how hard it can be when you're scared and when you feel stuck, but I always want people to know that there's always a way out. It's just a matter of taking the first step. And once you take the first step, then it just all flows. So it's just really important to reach out, and I'm a safe place, so if anyone wants to talk.
Website one more time.
ThoughtfulLawyering.com.
I'm so happy to know you. I'm happy that you came on the show today. I'm glad whatever the heck it was you posted a week and a half, 2 weeks ago got my attention. And social media can be good, everybody. And I'm glad we got to have this connection today, and I'm happy for you. And I know people are better off for having you in their corner, helping them and empowering them to go per se, as you say, right, to represent themselves, but armed with knowledge, information, and your expertise.
Yes, thank you, Tommy.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad you were here. Gang will be here all the time. Long Island ChangeMakers. As long as there's a Tommy D and as long as there's a Long Island, I'm going to be hanging out with ChangeMakers, and that's what we're going to do for you, is bring them here. Each week, I will bring you another guest. We'll have these important conversations. There's some information coming up at the end of the show where if you want to reach out to me, you want to nominate somebody to come on the show, you want to come on the show yourself, you reach out to your boy, Tommy D. And I tell you this every time, this has been another In Focus production. Make it a great day. See you later. Thanks.